Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we are on the sunny Walney Island and we're on something different today, if you can't tell already. We're going back to basics, back to lightweight, from a time long ago when motorcycles were very basic and different to what they are now. So today we're on a Yamaha TW125. So this is a bike that came out in the 90s and it was Yamaha's lightweight trail bike, kind of quite a unique niche. We'll go through it later on, but it uses an SR125 engine, so 125cc. It's got less than 12 brake horsepower and less than 10 newton meters of torque, so it's not going to set any records with speed and power, that's for sure, but it makes up for it in quirky looks and simplicity, and it's very lightweight. We're talking just over 100 kilos for this bike, about 106 kilos dry weight, probably about 115 wet weight, because the tank is tiny. So the tank on this is only about a 6 or 7 litre tank, so you can't really fit much fuel in it, but being a 125 and extremely lightweight, it barely uses any fuel at all, so you could probably get about 80 miles to the gallon. Okay. So we were going to do a perimeter tour of Walney Island, but the road is closed down here. I saw there was a road closed sign at the end and thought I would take a chance anyway. You know, as you do, us British people tend not to bother with road closed signs unless it's absolutely closed. So I thought I'd take a chance, but that lady politely told me there that the road really was closed and you can't get through. So I've turned round and we'll go a slightly different route. This bike's speedo has a mind of its own, so it's working at the moment, which is in kilometers for a start. So you've got to do a bit of a mental arithmetic to make sure you're not going over the speed limit. But sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Now, we have had the clock assembly all stripped apart. I took the back off it and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong. It's just, I think the wear on like the worm gears in the back of the clocks are worn to the point where sometimes they don't mesh and sometimes the speedo doesn't work. But what we have found is the main odometer and the trip meter does work, so you've always got the right readings. You just sometimes find that the speedo doesn't work, and you'll probably see as this ride goes on. Sometimes we have a speed, sometimes we don't. It only has a left-hand side mirror, which is taking me some getting used to, because I'm so used to mirrors on both sides of the bike, and I always tend to do a shoulder check or glance in the mirror before a shoulder check. And even without a mirror there, I must have gone to look in that mirror about 50 times already, and I've only been riding the bike 10 minutes. Come down and do some kite surfing. Seems plenty windy enough for it today, that's for sure. There's a plane taking off from Walney Airfield. So the tide's not fully in, so you've got some nice sand down there. You've got one guy out there kite surfing. There's hundreds of wind turbines out there in the Irish Sea, but it seems quite hazy today, you can't see many of them. Here's another road ahead closed sign we're going to ignore. We know the bike is called Trailway, but I ain't riding it down that. One, it would be illegal to, and we don't have right of way along here. And two, it's just not really worth it, is it? But this is all like the banking that used to be a road that used to go down there, and you could go all the way along, but just erosion has gradually washed it away, and then the wall and the flood defence has all disappeared with it, and it's just never been rebuilt. So you can walk through there and then walk along, and that joins onto like the North Walney Nature Reserve, the sand dunes, but you can no longer get any further down than this in a vehicle. That's off-road. Would you look at that? We have traffic lights here just for this 20 yards worth of roadworks. Better safe than sorry. So it's not a very powerful bike, as we've already said. It's like less than 12 horsepower, 11.7 horsepower when it was new 20 odd years ago, over 25 years ago in fact. So some of those horses might have left the stable by now, but we're in 5th gear, so it only has 5 gears, but we're in 5th gear now, chugging along, doing 40 kilometers an hour. Someone else will have to do the maths, or I'll put it on screen, but it's quite happy just sitting at this kind of speed in 5th gear. And if I want to open it up, there is very little there. That's me on full throttle, but it doesn't feel like it struggles to stay at this speed. It just does not have any get up and go when you open the throttle. I was saying earlier about going back to a simpler time. Check out that dash. You have speed, your total kilometers, your trip kilometers, a light for your indicators, a light for your high beam, and a neutral light. And that is it. No TFT screen, no miles per gallon, no fuel range, no rev counter, no ABS on or off, no traction control settings, no rider modes, just that's it. How fast you're going, and if you left your indicators on, which you would know anyway, because look at the size of them. They're like big bricks hanging off the side of the headlight cowl that you can actually see whilst you're on the bike anyway. For example, hey look, the alternate, the light flashes in like opposite to the indicator light. Oh, it's the little things in life that amuse me. On the left side, you have a light switch for your side lights and then dipped beam. You have your indicators. Which you can put back into the middle position and it doesn't go off, so you have to push to cancel. And then you have your high beam, which brings up a light there, which is very, very dim. You can barely tell during the day. And then a horn. Let's give this horn a blast. Well, sounds like a horn, I suppose. So I bet there's a few people online that don't even know what that is. So this is the choke. So you pull that to basically allow less air into the engine when the engine's cold, so you can start it up with more fuel and less air. And that's just something that we had to do in the olden days to be able to start a bike from cold when it had carburetors and not fuel injection. So on the right hand side we just have a kill switch and a starter button, that's it. I suppose the only modern thing about this bike is an electric start. I don't think it has a kickstart. Does it have a kickstart? No, I don't think it has a kickstart. It doesn't have a fuel warning light. So if you start spluttering and running out of fuel, what you have to do is reach down and turn a tap. So there's a tap there that is currently on the on position. You have to turn that to the reserve position. Bear in mind that the tank's only about 7 litres anyway. I dread to think what the reserve tank is. Hopefully enough to get you to the nearest petrol station. It's a very blustery island, I can tell you that, especially in October. That's me with the throttle wide open into a headwind, struggling to do 50 kilometers an hour. I suppose we could drop it down a few gears, but it certainly wouldn't be a case of drop it down a gear, disappear, that's for sure. Right, let's have another stop off here. Duck under there. Probably didn't need to duck, but I did anyway. Right, let's go and park up over here and have a look at this bike. So, the Yamaha TW125. It's a peculiar looking bike. It's sort of derived from the SR125. Same engine as the SR, but just more sort of trail focused with this flat seat and upright bars, things like that. The one thing I think we really need to talk about is that tyre. Look at the size of that thing. It is like a cartoon balloon tyre. It's a 180/80/14. I've never seen such a big tyre on a bike. I mean, we get 180s on sports bikes width-wise, but even the height of it as well is massive. And a 14-inch rim. You don't really see any rims that small unless they're on tiny little toy bikes or pit bikes. But you can see that this one's immaculate. Look at the engine is pretty much smaller than the tyre. And I bet there's more air in that tyre than there is volume in the engine. But you can see it's got a tiny little carburettor. Very, very straightforward and simple there. It's got a drum brake on the back. One disc brake on the front. But everything about it is just kind of retro cool. It's only got about 150 mil of travel on the suspension. I think it's like 160 mil on the front and 150 mil on the back, or it could be the other way around. No LED lights here, just massive, big, square, blocky lights. It's got a brand new chain and sprocket on it, but all the engine cases and things are all in wonderful condition for the age. That's the fuel tap there that I was saying before, so it's down on the on position and then you go across to the off or up to the reserve. Tiny little front disc, and then that's the speedo cable, that's the speedo driven cable that goes up to the clocks. It's actually got pretty good tyres on it. I was looking at these tyres actually for my KTM 1290 Super Adventure, but I decided against it and decided just to go for the Mutants, Dunlop Mutants. But these were on my radar. These are the Battle Axe, the Adventure Cross Scrambler tyres, the X41S. I don't think many tyre companies do tyres this ridiculous size on the back for this bike, but this is a pretty good tyre to have, I would say. Right, we're off again. I still ducked. I knew I didn't have to, but I still ducked. Speedo's still working. Let's just pop down here. I just want to show you something. Over there in the distance, you might not be able to see very well with the ultra wide, but that's Peel Island. So on there is Peel Castle, and there's a few houses and a pub. Now the only way to get to it is across here. So the people that live there have a key to this gate, and you basically have to drive along the beach and along the sand to get to that island. So the only way to do it is when the tide is out, obviously. And there is actually an old van, an old chassis out in there from when someone got stuck once or parked up and their car with the engine vibrating jiggled into the sand, and then that was it, stuck, and it's been there ever since. As legend has it, I'm pretty sure that that's how you would end up getting stuck in there if you just let your engine run and the vibrations. It's like when you go to the beach and you step on the sand and you jiggle it and wiggle it and your foot starts sinking in. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So yeah, anyway, if you live on that island, you really need to know your tide times. Doesn't seem any point in revving it out because you're not getting anywhere in a hurry anyway, so you might as well just enjoy the views of Peel Island and Roe Island. Go nice and slowly and just take it easy. This bike isn't about getting places quickly, it's about having the freedom to be on a bike. Your legs are quite high up, I'll give it that. My knees are quite high up, but it's not a terrible riding position. You get a bit of wind on your chest and stuff, but when you can only do about 40 miles an hour anyway, how much wind are you going to get? So this is the one and only road to South Walney. So that's South End Caravan Park, and then this is South Walney Nature Reserve Road. The youth of me would have tried to jump over those speed bumps, but now I don't even bother going over speed bumps if I can go around them. Thank you for your patience, kind sir. That might give you a better view of Peel Island and the couple of houses that are on it. It's just one terrace there, you can just see 4 chimneys, and then the castle to the right and the pub is kind of in the middle. No beach access. This area is reserved for resting and breeding wildlife. Well, in that case, we shan't go down there on a motorcycle. It says there, no unauthorized vehicles on this beach. But I wouldn't say that that was the beach. To me, that just looks like a road or a gravel track. I wouldn't say that was the beach. but out of respect for the wildlife and the nature reserve, we're not going down there. So that is the end of the road for us. South Walney Nature Reserve. Lots of sea birds, seagulls, that sort of thing, and seals as well. I'm pretty sure there's a webcam where you can see the actual seals down on the beach flopping about, but you know what I mean, just doing what seals do, sealing about. Bye bye, baby cow. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. We have been to the furthest point on the north of Walney and the furthest point that we can get to by road on the south of Walney. Basically, North Walney Nature Reserve and South Walney Nature Reserve. So to the east is the town of Barrow, and to the west is the Irish Sea, which goes directly across to the Isle of Man. So when it's not so hazy, you can actually see across over to the Isle of Man, but not today. I think we could be running out of fuel, so let's put it on the reserve tap and see if that makes it any better. So I don't know if you could tell that from on camera, but I could just feel that when I backed off throttle and I went to open it again, it was just hesitating slightly, just like it was sort of misfiring, but the chances of there being anything wrong with the bike was slim compared to the likelihood of it just running out of fuel. So I've flicked the reserve tap on, or flicked the fuel tap over from on to reserve, so now I know I'm on the reserve tank. So now we're on the reserve tank, we best go and put some fuel in on the way home, and then remember to put the tap back to the on position, because if you leave it in reserve and then the next time you run out of fuel, you really will have run out of fuel. So when we say reserve tank, it's actually the same tank, but you just have the fuel pickups at different heights. So one's obviously higher in the tank than the other, so that runs out of fuel first, and then it gives you the remainder of the tank for the reserve. I guess before they had fuel gauges and things like that, it was just a simple way to know how much you still had left in the tank. Let's hope the reserve tank is enough to get us off this island, because there's no petrol station here. We'll just have to get back onto the mainland, which funnily enough is also an island, just a much bigger island. And then we will put some fuel in and get home ready for a cheese board for tea with some Spanish meats of various types, maybe a bit of chutney. Let me know in the comments what your favourite cheese is. I keep going to change up the gears and I can't. That's us in 5th gear, 70 kilometers or 65 kilometers an hour, and that feels like just borderline of where you would want to change up to the next gear. I would class that as high-end cruising. It would cruise at that all day long, but I would say this here, so 60 kilometers an hour is a nice cruising speed for this bike. Once you start going up to 65, 70 kilometers an hour, it sort of feels like that's where you want to be reaching for another gear that it hasn't got. Slow down for horses. especially when you're on a noisy bike. Love them or hate them, they've got as much right to be on the road as the rest of us. Another GG. Just checking the mirror once I've gone past, make sure it's not bucked her off or anything. So what do I think of this bike? I actually really like it. I love the looks, I love its tiny little tank and its massive balloon tyre. Quirky kind of looks. It looks so much cooler than the SR125 that it shares the engine with. It just looks the part. With these big chunky tyres on, it looks like you could ride it across a beach or across a dirt track. You can put it on the back of your camper van. It's just so lightweight and fun. It's got a massive seat on it. I can sit all the way at the back here. I can sit all the way at the front. I can sit right at the front, almost on the tank. It does have pillion pegs, so you could put a pillion on the back, but man, it would be slow. It would be horrendously slow with two people on it. And the suspension's not noticeably soft for absorbing bumps, and it's not rock hard either, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's small suspension, lightweight suspension. Would I want to do any jumps on it? Certainly not. Would I take it down a fire road gravel track? Yes. Would I take it over some small rocks slowly? Yeah, I would do that, especially with its tyres. I'd maybe air down a little bit, get a bit more grip and use the tyres as suspension as well. But I certainly wouldn't be doing jumps or a motocross track or anything like that. But that's probably not. But that's not what this bike was designed for. It's got adventure written on the tank and it's got trailway written on the tank. So I would say that this was a very lightweight adventure bike for light trails. It will get you off the beaten track, and you can leave your camper van on the camper van site and go for an explore. You and your partner, you and your friends, jump on this and just have a good time. Definitely puts a smile on your face, and it's just a good little fun bike. It's actually for sale, although I hate to say that and advertise it because I don't really want it to be sold. I'd like it to be kept in the family just for the fun factor. But in reality, I've got much bigger bikes to ride. I've got other bikes, the Himalayans, sort of the similar kind of quirky fun factor, although that's a 400cc and a much bigger bike, much heavier bike. You wouldn't want to put that on the back of your camper van. But at the moment, it kind of doesn't really have its place in the fleet for on or off-road. So unfortunately, this is for sale. So if you're interested in that, send us a message and I can send you more photographs and videos. But as you saw from the video earlier, it is pretty much immaculate for the age of the bike. That's us leaving the island now, so we'll end the video there. As always, thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, give us a like and a subscribe, and I will see you at the next one. Thanks very much. Bye bye.